but to stack on top of there the effort of the day and the physical effort of the day, and then to put on top of that the emotional part of the day, and to lead a race that whole time and then get caught and then finish second. It was a high, a low, you put everything out there, and that last 5 miles of that race for me, I gave everything I had, like everybody does, but for me it was like more than I've done in the past. And it was literally the last mile of the run, I was singing songs out loud, worship songs actually, to get my mind off of what I was feeling and how my legs were feeling, because I was really concerned that I could fall at any moment. Like, I was concerned that I wouldn't make it, and so I had to separate my mind from my body as much as I could. And I'm sure guys on the sidelines were looking at me going, what is this guy doing? You know, I was just like, just bug-eyed and just singing songs out loud. It was a bizarre experience. And it was just more of like, when I crossed the finish line, it was just an exhaustion of, thank goodness it's over. I was just so glad that the race was over, and then I had to deal with the emotional part after of that.
And how many times have you gone over it and gone 2 minutes and 35 seconds? Where the heck, I could have saved a second here, I could have done that.
Yeah. There was a little bit of that, and there still is in sections. But for me, one thing that I've learned is it's in my mind now every time I go do a workout. You know, every day I go and I train or do something, the Ironman pops in my mind at some point. Some part of that race, not always, you know, with Crowie, but some part of that race is always in my mind, and it got me to realize why so many people who finish second one year come back the next year and win it, because the drive is just a little bit different. You know, it's not that I'm more intense on it. It's not that I'm going to train that much more or do a huge block or go ride 120 miles and do 14 1-mile repeats. But
you'll do it. You know you will.
Yeah, so it's just, you know, that drive is just different now, and I'm sure that's one thing that helped Crowie when he finished second. You know, as far as to come back that next year, he didn't want Macca to beat him the next year. He wanted to show him.
And the other side of it is, if you did everything right, you had the perfect race, and Craig Alexander had to run the fastest marathon of the day. It's not like he just ran a 2:48. He had to run a 2:48 to win that race, to beat you on an exceptional day. So you got to look at it and go, I did everything right, and I lost to a better guy on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And the plan going into the race was for me to have the best race I could and really put a performance out there that was phenomenal. But in that process, it was also to make a challenge to anybody behind, that they would have to dig enough to have an exceptional race on their part, to have a performance that was worthy of the win. And Crowie did that, you know. And so I don't have any regrets. I don't look back at it. I know I have more in me. I know I have more to improve upon. And I know the day didn't go perfect for him, but it doesn't go perfect for anybody. But, you know, he had a race that was worthy of winning by far.
So, and Craig, from your perspective, you have to look at your race and go, hey, I was 12 minutes back, and similar to a Mark Allen in '95 or some of the other great champions, you knew what you had to do, and you executed it perfectly to run the fastest marathon a day on a very tough day. It wouldn't have been out of line to run run over 250 with those conditions.
Yeah, Chris brought a level of performance out of me that day that I hoped was there, but you never know it's there. I think, you know, all performances throughout your career are linked to your opposition. And I'm sure you'd agree. I mean, when we raced in Boise and in Honu, we both were at the same level of fitness. We were both building towards the same race in October, but I mean, he brought a level of fitness out of me in June that I didn't think I had at the time.
Right.
And I think, you know, your best competition brings that out of you. And I mean, it wasn't for me to console him at the finish line. I mean, obviously I was trying to win, and he was trying to win, and I mean, that's racing, but I knew he would be proud of himself. I didn't want to be condescending or patronising. It was a simple congratulations. I think there was mutual respect there at the finish, and I left it at that because I knew how he would have felt to get so close. And it's hard to put into words because to finish second in a world championship is an amazing achievement. But I think if you're driven to the point where you want to win, sometimes you feel like you haven't met your own levels of performance, I guess. And I'd been where he was in '07 on debut. There, I finished second, and there is a mixed emotion because I'm not going to lie. I walked away from that race thinking, it could have been a train wreck, and I walked away with a podium finish. But then, I think it's the competitor in all of us. You do the post-mortem at some stage, and you just. It's like I said to you in the car when you picked me up at the airport this morning, '07 is still my fondest triathlon memory because it's my first race in Kona. But from a purely performance perspective, I made so many mistakes. I cringe about it when I think about it now, but I think that's part of the process of physically learning and mentally toughening up to do better. And like Chris said, there's been a lot of guys who have finished second. Thomas Hellriegel, he finished second twice, and then he went on to win his third attempt. And there's a lot of examples of guys. And it's a funny thing. It's an interesting fraternity amongst the top guys because I think there's a mutual respect amongst most of the guys. And
Right.
you know what it takes to get in that position, and it can be heartbreaking and euphoric at the same time. And it was a great race. I don't look at times, or every year's different because of the conditions, and the way you race the race is different. I look at '08 on the bike. It was much harder day on the bike. The wind came up from the start, and I remember we got to Waikoloa, which is I think about 30 miles into the ride.
Yeah.
And the lead group had whittled down from 35 guys to 8 guys because it was so windy. Whereas this year, last year I should say, the first 2 hours on the bike there was no wind, and I think everyone got excited. So it was super quick at the beginning, but by the end of the day, we'd ridden the same time. So the way the race plays out, the dynamic of the race is different every time. I think your best bet is always just to ration your effort and be steady state all day, to be honest. But sometimes when you're racing for the win, that you can't do that. If a move goes, or if people perceive you to be a good runner and they want to try and hurt you on the bike, and little allegiances form on the bike, and that's what happens. Let's not kid ourselves. That's what happens.
Sure.
You have to counter that, and that's what I felt happened last year. I had to withstand, everybody's best shot, and I was still there swinging at the end of the bike. Once again, the group had been whittled down from 30 to. We had Chris off the front. He was in a different zip code by the end of the bike, but pretty much the next 8 or 10 guys were all within a couple of minutes, and we could see each other on the Queen K. So every race is different. People always say, "What time do you hope to run? What time do you hope to ride?" It depends on the conditions. It depends on the competition, the way the race is playing out, and obviously the way you're feeling as well.
Sure. So where are you guys going head to head this year?
I don't know. We'll have to compare schedules.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna look. I'm sure we'll see each other a couple times this year.
Nice. Chris, will this be another year up at Mammoth? Will you train up with the boys?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be up there a couple times this year.
Uh-oh. He's going to be running faster.
Yeah, well, that's what you'd expect. Every year you expect your competition to get better, and you've got to try and find ways to improve, even if it's only 0.5% or 1% to try and stay ahead of the game. And, we talked about pressure, and, for me, all it's about is trying to always improve on things I've done in the past. So, if I can improve on my races there, I still feel I've had far from the perfect race in Hawaii, and I think it's hard. If you went back through history and asked anyone, they'd probably say the same thing. I think you rarely have, a day where everything goes well for 8 hours. But, my goal this year is just to try and improve and put a performance out there that I'm proud of. And, if I get beaten, I'm sure initially, when the emotions are raw, I'd be a little upset, because once you've won somewhere, it's never quite the same. But I've been in situations before, I've been beaten, and when the dust settles, it's a performance that you're proud of, and they're not the ones that keep you awake at night, I don't think so. For me, it's just trying to improve. Chris will raise his game, so will Rasmus Henning. He'll be there for the second time. Andreas Raylert will be there. And Nico Lanos, who's a super consistent guy. He had a bad year last year. I wouldn't count on that happening again.
Cameron Brown,
Rupert Becky will be back.
It gets harder and harder every year. I have had some people come up to me and say, you finished second this year, you have more confidence going in. Yeah, I have a little bit more confidence, but it doesn't make it any easier. Next year is going to be a lot harder than this year.
Absolutely.
I mean, I look at it, and that was one of the reasons why at first I said, I don't know if I want to do it again, because it's not going to be any easier.
Never
you
will.
know?
Hey, how about a big round of applause? Two-time champion Craig Alexander and a three-time overall Ironman champion, Mr. Chris Lieto.